While most people are confident Bitcoin just entered a bear market, I'm making the other case. Donald Trump just said something that suggests we could be about to explode. Trump just said that he's going to keep the stock market at all-time high. Absolutely crazy work in a quote-unquote free market. And this is, of course, happening with QT ending in a matter of days. And now we're getting some news of a new dovish Fed board member is coming by end of year. They're saying they're about to kind of pick the guy potentially end of December. And then as we covered this week, the biggest bank in the world is flipping bullish on Bitcoin. Did we just see the start of a new bear market, or was that the biggest bear trap in Bitcoin history? All right, so we got a lot of news to cover. First of all, I will start with the Trump tweet just because I think it's so ridiculous. It's just like insane. I'm not alone. I do have Chris Alamo with me today. Nico, guys, he's not hungover. He had some family things to deal with today, so it's me and Chris holding it down for you guys today. But here is the first tweet. It's just absolutely nuts to see. This is coming from Watcher Guru. Justin, President Trump says he will keep the stock market at all-time highs. Absolutely crazy work here. I know a lot of people are like, the president doesn't control the markets. Guys, I don't think you understand how the S&P 500 and the stock market works. I would argue they are pretty rigged. So I don't think it's too crazy for him to say that he will actually do this. Now, there is another interesting little tidbit that I saw. It was really highly underreported, and I think part of the reason was because it seemed like an old clip, but Trump was just on 60 Minutes, and he said some very interesting things on Bitcoin, or rather crypto in particular. So I'm going to play that clip for you guys, and then I'll go into the saga of why I think this was not the start of a bear market.
I only care about one thing. Will we be number one in crypto? Crypto has turned out, and in that sense, I've been right. Crypto's turned out to be a massive industry, if you want to call it that. And I'm very proud to say that we are far and away ahead of China and everybody else. Now, China's getting into it very big right now. If you want to go after people, you're going to kill that industry, and it'll be very bad. Tremendous number of jobs. I campaigned positively on crypto, very openly. I campaigned. Biden campaigned against it. When Biden found out that I was getting like 100% of the crypto vote, which was a lot, he switched totally, and he went in favor of crypto. They went totally in favor. They had many people under indictment. They let them all go. They let them all go. You know that. Many people were under indictment. Biden was a corrupt president. Biden went all in on crypto at the very end because he thought he could get some votes. It didn't work. They voted for me. I want to make crypto great for America. That's the only thing. I don't want to have somebody else have crypto and have China be number one in the world in crypto. Because in crypto, it's a kind of an industry where basically you're going to have number one and you're not going to have a number two. And right now, we're number one by a long shot. I want to keep it that way. The same way we're number one with AI, we're number one with crypto, and I want to keep it that way.
And look, we're going to discuss here. We're going to pause here for a minute with Chris, because I've been saying for a while, I think a lot of people underestimate just how much the Trump family actually wants to see Bitcoin go up. I've been saying kind of two repetitive things for I guess since Trump's been elected. One, Trump has very clearly came out and said he's going to use the stock market performance as one of the indicators for how well he's doing as a president. Obviously, you know, he's coming out here all the time saying the economy is great. Well, I mean, if you're on Main Street, you're probably begging to differ on that front. But S&P 500 has been doing pretty good. Most really, you know, assets that Wall Street likes are doing pretty good. And then the second one was he very clearly said earlier in the year, or maybe it was during campaign, that he's going to be using the crypto markets as his second kind of indicator of how good he's doing as a president. Now we're seeing him reconfirm a lot of this stuff. So putting those two ideas together, I mean, I know people in the chat say like the president has no effect on the economy, or rather on Bitcoin. Clearly, the president has no effect on Bitcoin. He clearly has an effect on the economy. But I don't know. I'm kind of sorry, something's ringing over here. What's going on? I'm kind of begging to differ over here. I think I think with what we're seeing, and I'm gonna make the case of some other stuff. One, as I've been telling you guys, Wall Street wants to get into Bitcoin. It's very clear with the news of JP Morgan attacking strategy and now launching its own Bitcoin note, preferred note, or structured note. And all of the Wall Street institutions essentially preparing themselves for a Bitcoin bull run. Then we have, of course, the president of the World Reserve Currency, Donald Trump, here, just constantly being very focused on what's going on in the stock market and as well in the Bitcoin/crypto markets. And then, of course, he's got the sixth biggest treasury. People forget he basically made the majority of his net worth in shit coins, World Liberty Finance, the Trump coin, Melania coin, etc. So I think he's super invested in Bitcoin doing well. And then, of course, I think the one other thing before I pass it to Chris is now that Jamie Dimon has gotten to Bitcoin, now that he's kind of put his reputation on the line, I think we're underestimating just what an unlimited bid will look like. They're not coming into this Bitcoin thing and expecting an 80% drawdown. You guys know I was trolling Nico all week. Like 30K, bro, like, I get it. Historically, you can say it could get down to 30K. I just don't see it. What I've been saying the last couple of weeks, and so far I'm correct, is that 80K was the dip, and then we're going to kind of go sideways, and then we're going to see a new leg up. That's kind of been my basic framework for what's going on, considering all of the news. Yes, if you're looking at the charts, they're pretty ugly. I'm not going to lie. The chart's looking brutal. But I think there's things outside of the chart with all of this new narrative spin that I think most Bitcoiners are underestimating. So before I move on, Chris, what's your thoughts connecting these two thoughts? One, Trump says, hey, I'm going to make sure the stock markets is all-time high. And two, I am very focused on Bitcoin and crypto because of China. And as we saw, I don't know if you saw this, Chris, but China is now back to the third largest miners, in the world. The China mining ban basically completely done. And I was making the case it's because the U.S. is embracing Bitcoin that China can no longer kind of go out there and use we're gonna ban Bitcoin now. The game theory is set, and I think I hate to be the extended cycle stuff, but the 4-year cycle to me, I think we can throw that out the window.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just use the famous Charlie Munger quote: "Show me the incentives, and I'll show you the outcome." I really do think Trump obviously wants to have a legacy being his second term as president. He's always been focused on the economy, so to speak, or just the not the real estate, the stock market in general. Obviously, he ties to success, definitely economic success. And then show me the incentive, show me the outcome. I mean, Trump literally launched Trump coin, Melania coin, like 2 days before he took office. I mean, many of the Bitcoin folks or the Bitcoin maxis were not thrilled, myself included in that. Like, hey, like basically you're saying you're going to be like taking office. You can pardon yourself. You can do all these different things and basically like, hey, it's basically like, I'm not saying like a pre-crime, but basically like, hey, I'm launching my own shit coin. I'm going to make a ton of money and I'm not going to be held accountable for it, at least for the foreseeable 4 years that I'm in office. I was not thrilled about that, but I think being more fair now, obviously Trump, the vast majority of his net worth was from real estate, but he basically doubled that overnight with Bitcoin and crypto at large. Yes, we can go into the nitty gritty of him basically just launching his own shitcoin, but to Opti's point, like he's very tied to the financial incentives of Bitcoin doing well and the crypto markets. I think he does feel a little bit of loyalty. Obviously, we've seen him pardoning Ross Ulbricht. We've obviously seen the Bitcoin and crypto community donated at large. The vote was very at large for Trump. And to Trump's point, I mean, Trump is normally a person that's pretty good at calling out the cultural zeitgeist. Like he's like the Biden administration, one way or the other, like him and Gary Gensler. I know Opti's a big Gary Gensler fan, maybe true Bitcoin maxi. That remains to be seen still. That was a good call by Opti on his part. But that being said, like the choke point 2.0, the crackdown on crypto, a lot of indictments, Free Samurai developers, obviously the Bitcoin fog case, the Bitcoin, oh my gosh, I always forget the last one. Bitcoin Fog and the other
Samurai
Bitcoin
wallet.
mixer, Samurai Wallet, and then Tornado Cash. Sorry, those were the three big cases. Obviously, a big part of that is the Biden administration was very hostile to Bitcoin. And obviously, the Bitcoin industry is like, hey, you can pick traditional administration that's going to be very hostile towards it, or you can pick an administration that's showing that they're pro. Obviously, the Biden administration or the Kamala Harris campaign pivoted, but it was almost too little too late. It's like, oh, we were being really hard the last 3.5 years, but now we're going to show leniency to try and buy votes. And I think a lot of the voters, especially in the Bitcoin and crypto space, saw that, and they basically didn't want to be, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And I don't think that many of the voters, definitely in the crypto and Bitcoin space, did not want to have the hammer of the law come down on them. Obviously, there's the contrarians in the Bitcoin space that say like Bitcoin does better when the government is harsher and more authoritarian because it forces the tools to be built and to be improved, which I kind of agree with in a sense. But at the same time, I think a lot of people in the industry are like, we've had enough of cracking down the last 3.5, 4 years. And it was obviously the pendulum kind of swinging the other way. There was obviously many big cultural impacts of this presidential election, that aside, but I think that was a big factor in it. I do think Trump, obviously a large portion of him and his kids' net worth is now tied up in Bitcoin. I know there was even reports, Opti, I'm pretty sure we talked about this, with Barron Trump's worth like $150 million now as well because of the crypto of it all. But like I said, I think our sentiment remains the same. Bitcoin, crypto, we see only Bitcoin. Stay humble, stack sats. That's the best long-term financial advice. And I agree with you, Opti. I think that like the 4-year cycles are, I don't want to call them dead yet, but we're not going to 30K. Like I had so many friends over Christmas break. They're like, Chris, Bitcoin's crashing. Where do you think? And I said, probably 70 to 80. I think that now's a good time to buy, but I'm kind of a glutton for punishment and I'm always buying. So, just get on the train like me, daily dollar cost average into buying Bitcoin and you'll be very, very happy.
Yeah, I could see maybe one more pullback and potentially in that 70K range. I think that would still kind of align with what my view is right now. But you brought up Barron Trump, and I really wasn't going to bring this up, but there has been a lot of rumors right now that Barron Trump is one of these huge secret whales. And yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, I saw that this insider whale, and they did put the picture of Barron Trump on Twitter. I guess he had a short and he basically lost like $1 million or $2 million on it and then instantly closed that short and went long like 90 million. So, I mean, if it is Barron, I'm sure he knows something's going on. Anyways, let's get into a little more of this source material because there's a little more interesting stuff here. First off is this one. As we know, Trump's been very vocal about basically getting Jerome Powell out of his position. He does end his kind of tenure. I believe it's April of next year, but there has been like, let's fire Powell. Well, interestingly enough, the new favorite is this guy named Kevin Hassett. So he's going to be the clear favorite, or at least as of today and as of yesterday, the clear favorite for the next Fed chair. And the prediction markets have skyrocketed on this. Now, again, prediction markets aren't always correct, but someone's putting some money on the line. And now he's got around a 55% chance of being the new Fed chair. Now, you're probably like, yeah, who cares? Who is this Kevin Hassett guy? Well, he used to be a former Coinbase advisor. So there's been a lot of rumors of dovish kind of new Fed chairs. Like, I forget the guy's first name, but Moran, he came out. He's like, we need 3 huge rate cuts. If this is the new Fed chair, Kevin Hassett, a former Coinbase advisor, as the Trump kind of pick for the Fed chair, all of this is aligning very well. Yeah, Stephen Moran. Thank you, Chris.
Stephen Moran.
Sorry. This is all lining up very, I think, clearly for what we've been dubbing, or rather what I've been dubbing, what Mark Moss has been dubbing the Mar-a-Lago Accords, where they essentially realize, hey, the way we're going right now isn't good. People aren't buying U.S. treasuries. We need to have a treasury buyer, an infinite demand. And that is, of course, why they want to kind of include stable coins into the American kind of monetary process. Now, if we do get an ex-Coinbase advisor as the Fed chair, I think it'd be a very easy guess to say that Trump's going to get what he wants, which is, of course, interest rate cuts, a lot of free money back on the table, and then unleashing a stable coins, which inadvertently will unleash Bitcoin. And going further, the odds of the Federal Reserve cutting interest rate are also rising. It just rose to 87% on Polymarket. So it looks like all of the kind of indicators that are leading to more free money, the money printer getting turned back on. Again, we have about 3 days officially until QT is officially over. They said it's going to be done December 1st. Obviously, there's going to be delay before even we get any indication of whether they're going to go QE or QE by any other name. But you know one thing, they are not tightening the balance sheet anymore. Now, does that mean they're going to have free reign to print as much as possible? I'm guessing not. But if we've seen anything come out recently that is an indicator of what's going to happen. It's what happened in Japan. Again, they printed about $135 billion stimulus package, which in dollar terms, in equivalence to the US in size, in relative terms, that's about $1 trillion that the Japanese economy or government just printed. So it looks like the money printers are coming back online. And obviously, you do not want to be sitting on the sideline. This is why I've been kind of arguing with one of my buddies, actually, Chris and mine's good friend. He's like, I'm scaling out. It's going lower, bro. And I'm like, dude, I would not, even if you're right, I would not want to be on the sideline if the Max Payne trade is, everyone thinks it's going lower, bear market, and it just absolutely rips because we have institutions, nation states, and the money printer turning on. To me, that's a little too much risk than I'm willing to kind of accept when it comes to my Bitcoin positions and my views on this. Now, before I pass it on to Chris, I do want to add one little tidbit in here because I was going to bring this up yesterday, and we got some even more interesting news. So I did grok. Can I call it fact check? I grok check this, and it does seem to be true. Arkham wasn't working for me this morning, but in this dip, we're seeing whales and institutions buying a mass amounts of coin. I think the total number is about 14,800 Bitcoin have been bought up in the last 24 hours. And you can see Strategy buying 7,600 Bitcoin, Wintermute buying over 10,000 Bitcoin, Fidelity buying 1,500 Bitcoin, and Bitwise buying 6,700 Bitcoin. So if you're selling your Bitcoin right now because you think it's going lower, you're selling it to the institutions. Now, I wouldn't be wanting to do that. I'm not willing to take that risk. And going further, to add to this information, the number of wallets holding 0.1 Bitcoin has gone down during this dip, while the whales, the wallets with 1,000 Bitcoin plus, is ripping, guys. So we are essentially seeing what I've been telling you guys for the last couple of weeks. Since we've seen this dip, since we've gotten kind of some new frameworks of the IPO Bitcoin moment happen, the institutions coming in, JP Morgan announcing that they're going to be launching a structured note product, you're seeing retail get absolutely shaken out right now. If you're selling Bitcoin and you think it's going lower, you're selling it to Jamie Dimon, Saylor, Larry Fink, Wall Street institutions. Right now, it's not the time to be selling out, expecting it to go lower. I'm convinced it's going to go higher. Obviously, not financial advice. This is just kind of what my gut and intuition is telling me. Again, my main kind of thesis is, look, I'm looking at the chart too, and it's brutal. It's ugly. It makes me think a bear market's coming. But with the amount of kind of narrative shift we've seen from the institutions in Wall Street, it makes no sense to me that we're going to see another 80% drawdown. And I think this is why a lot of people are getting absolutely wrecked. It's because they're looking at the charts. They're expecting things to play out as they played out before. But the last few years have proven us one thing. All our models are broken. Again, all-time high before the halving. No parabolic bull run yet in 2025. And we have the institutions coming in. And just to kind of add a little more onto this, the Coinbase Bitcoin Premium finally turns green. So the institutions are buying again. It has just flipped green. The institutions are out here scooping up the coin. So if you're selling your coin right now, you're literally selling it to Wall Street. I don't think it's a very wise move to make right now, especially when you're doing the classic, like, I'm going to sell higher so I can buy lower. And it's like, how many times have we seen friends get wrecked doing this exact process? Everyone thinks they know the market. This is why I claim to have a 42 IQ, because I know I'm not smarter than the market. I just try to accumulate as much as possible. If it was very clearly a blow off top, then yeah, maybe you take a little chips off the table so you could survive. But I think what we've seen in the year of 2025, at least so far, is we are seeing a rotation of holders in Bitcoin. We're seeing from the old guard into the new guard, or from the, cypherpunk Bitcoiner to the institutional Wall Street type Bitcoiner. And I'm not going to get caught offsides on this one. I think the institutions are buying this thing. I think they want to get in at a good price. I think they're going to rip it. I don't think they're in Bitcoin to just get, S&P 500 plus 500 bips here. Like, they're not just trying to barely outperform the S&P 500. I think they're trying to get in and get a couple, 3, 4, 5x baggers. And who knows what we're moving forward. All I've been saying is something feels different, something looks different, and I'm not willing to put my stack on the line. Not that I have one, you know, I lost. I don't even hold Bitcoin. I just like to talk about Bitcoin. But very interesting things are going on. And the more that I see retail kind of get scared and bearish, the more I just keep thinking like Jamie Dimon and Larry Fink and Donald Trump and Scott Bessent, they must be laughing their ass off behind the scenes and being like, thank you for this cheap coin, you idiot, because it's about to rip so hard. And we're seeing people get played. We're seeing people get I think people are going to get absolutely burnt moving forward. To me, Max Payne is being a Bitcoiner for what, 5, 7, 10 years. And then at the moment that institutions come in, you get scared, you get shaken out of your bag, and then it just rips. I don't know. I think that's the real Max Payne scenario. But what do I know? This is my bias showing. I tell you guys constantly, I am very biased. I stay bull-tarded until the information kind of shows me that I was wrong. And as of now, all I know is everyone's been wrong, and I'm not going to listen to anyone else now. I'm listening to my intuition here. And I think we're going sideways and then up. I don't think this is the bear market. Good thing I don't have Nico here to be a perma bear. But I'm not convinced we're in a bear market yet. I've been in denial for a while, and I will maintain denial until we break under 70K.
Yeah.
Hit it, Chris.
I agree. I'm not a seller here. Wasn't a seller at 126K. Well, I'm not a seller at 80K. I'm in accumulation phase. Like, the name of the game is accumulating as many and as much sats as you can possibly responsibly without taking leverage. I think that's the be all end all game. Obviously my good buddy, my old boss, CK Snarks, used to say, like, you're in the long haul, and part of that long haul is not only not selling or not buying or trading this asset, it's getting your Bitcoin from when you bought it to the end when you need to use it, when you're at retirement, when you need to spend it, whatever. Like, there's nothing worse than, trying to accumulate all this Bitcoin and then you send it to an address that you cannot access. So that's part of the game as well. So obviously when things are crazy, you obviously want to act very slowly, responsibly. You don't want to panic. You don't want to do anything irrational. I think the best thing to do is to always check your setups, to make sure that you're, using the wallets properly, to make sure that your backups are secure and safe. I think that's the name of the game. I know, Nico, not Opti. I'll send you this. I had this from Primal, or actually I can just talk it, but then you can put it up on the screen. Do you have my Primal account by any chance? I can talk you through it while you have it.
Maybe.
I can pull it up real quick. Anyway, I could talk through it. So I've been seeing a lot of talk, obviously, about the S&P 500 and gold over the last 25 years. As a comparison, they were kind of using the crash of, the 2001 financial crisis, or the the Internet of Things, when everything crashed then. So if you were buying the S&P 500 25 years ago, the gains from the S&P 500 of like around January of 2000 was 358%. If you're using gold, so obviously gold's been in the news, gold's been ripping, China, Russia, all these other countries are buying it because they're claiming that we're going to be back on the gold standard. Gold's returns quite impressive. I will give it 1,354%. If you started when the Bitcoin network started, obviously many of us weren't into Bitcoin then, but the returns from January 3rd, 2009 were 124,109,300% returns. Obviously, you're not Satoshi, you're not Hal Finney. Okay, you're not part of that group. Okay, let's just say the second epoch. So January 3rd, 2012, 1,339,250. Obviously, a lot of people are early there, early adopters, early innovators. Okay, you're not part of that group. January 14th, 2016, 22,774% returns is astronomical. And then I guess if you're looking from January 8th, 2020, 935% returns. And a lot of people are like, well, gold is still outperformed. No, I use gold in a 25-year window. I use the S&P over a 25-year window. If you're using this just from January 8th, 2020, and that wasn't even when it dipped down to 3,000K. I think around January 8th, 2020 was probably around like 7 to 10K, 11K, somewhere in that range. So it just goes to show, like, if you're in it for the long haul, Bitcoin is going to perform excellent over the long term. Obviously NVIDIA and MicroStrategy over that time might have done slightly better, but even they're on the decline. I do think that it trends towards one, meaning that it is trending towards the hardest money in the world, which is Bitcoin. Obviously they can print more MicroStrategy stock. They can print more, NVIDIA stock. gold is coming out of the ground at a higher rate than Bitcoin is being produced by the blocks and the miners. And then obviously the S&P 500 is just kind of a general investing average. So if you can beat all of those things without having the risk of CEO, with having the risk of boards, without having the risk of default of debt, of the fiat money system collapsing, I think Bitcoin is your best bet, and the hardest money wins over time always. Sorry for my rant there. It was
it was great.
Little chaotic, but
yeah, that was some great context, because I was looking. Actually, Sophie sent me this video, and it was like what people thought about money in 1994. And it's crazy. It goes into like the history doesn't repeat. It often rhymes though. And they're saying a lot of the things that you're seeing now. And I went in and I looked at the S&P 500 chart. And in 1994, it was basically like a negative year. But if you just slowly but surely invested in the S&P 500 from 1994 onward, you got like 1,400% returns. And so like everyone was freaking out. They're like, they're doing the classic like diversify your investment portfolio. All you got to do is save 25%, et cetera, like the same things we've all heard. And you kind of look back and you're like, wow, on the one hand, all you had to do is buy the S&P 500 and you're doing pretty good, like pretty good returns. But now we have Bitcoin, and you look back and everything they said, you're like, they sound kind of like Bitcoiners, or rather maybe like pre-coiners, people that get into Bitcoin. You see the same problems. It's only been, exaggerated now because of inflation, because of the amount of money printing that's been going on, because the system is so broken. And it kind of always reminds me of the meme of like, you don't really have to diversify your money if your money is performing well. If your money can store value, there's no need to diversify into anything else. But when you have broken money, everyone gets turned into an investor, and it's just crazy to look back. And maybe this is the millennial in me. You look back and you're like, man, the boomers, the Gen Xers, they kind of had it so easy. All you had to do is just throw your money at the S&P 500. And then I think about it, and like, people are going to say we had it easy. All you had to do is throw your money into Bitcoin, and you're doing very well now. It's like, we didn't get that opportunity. So, history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes.
And I'll add one more thing. There was a great quote from Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. I think it was Warren Buffett's particularly, was saying like, don't diversify. Like, he always says like the punch card. Basically, if you could only have 20 investments over your entire life, what would be the 20 investments that you want? You'd list 1 through 20, and then you invest in the top 5, and you'd guard those at for your life depended on it. So obviously, diversifying into things is only great for the money managers. It's great for Larry Fink and BlackRock and, Fidelity and Vanguard for you to diversify, because a lot of them have this 2 and 20 spread, or they're collecting fees on you just by, just buying the market, buying the basket. But to Opti's point, if you're buying the best and hardest money in the world, you're going to perform way better than those. And you have great returns just doing the S&P 500 easy thing. So I think Greg Voss had this great thing saying if you want to hedge, if you want to hedge, if you don't want to be 100% in Bitcoin, not that Opti and I are in that, because we don't own any Bitcoin. We just like to talk about it. But if you want to hedge,
I have no money. What are we talking about?
If you want to hedge, it's like, you do it based on your position size. You're like, okay, I only want to have 50% of my net worth in Bitcoin. And then I want to put the remaining 50% of my savings, outside of my spending in the S&P 500 or in gold. I'm assuming the person that does a 30-30-30 of S&P 500, gold, and Bitcoin, maybe we have more conviction, you and I, in Bitcoin ourselves. But if you do a third in gold, Bitcoin, and the S&P 500, I'm sure you're going to be fabulously wealthy in 30 to 40 years. Yeah, maybe for the people that are a little bit further on in their working career or getting closer to retirement, they won't have the luxury of that. So maybe position a little bit higher in Bitcoin or a smaller amount of your large net worth. But I think that if you did a third in those 3 assets, you'll be great. If you want to be more risky, so to speak, put it more into Bitcoin. Like I said, Opti and I don't have any. We just like to talk on it.
Well, you reminded me of one of totally. Full disclaimer. You reminded me of one of the things that video said, and you guys could probably find it if you want to watch it on YouTube. It's like 1994, what people think about money or something like that. And one of the things they said that you kind of reminded me is if you're older, you probably want to be, not as far off the risk scale. But if you're younger and you do have a 30-year window kind of investment perspective here, then you're obviously you have a lot of time where you can go a little farther off the risk scale here and do things that, you know, a 70-year-old wouldn't do. Like if you're 30 years old, personally, I'd be like, just buy Bitcoin, just go all in. You know, if you're young, if you're like a Zoomer, it's like, bro, just go all in on Bitcoin, do whatever. You know, I'd go full sailor, like sell your kidneys, like do whatever you can, go all in on Bitcoin. You're gonna be straight. Again, obviously, if I'm talking to like my parent, I'm not telling them like HELOC your house or anything. My dad's a gold bug, silver bug. Yeah, I'm just like, dude, just buy a little bit of Bitcoin and, you know, like just chill on it and you'll be happy. Basically, just get some so that I will shut up. But I think your point remains the same. Like if you're younger, you have a lot more room to take some risk, which is probably just a bigger Bitcoin kind of allocation.
Yeah, I'll add one last thing. I've been reading the Bible a little bit more, and there was a great biblical quote that I saw that basically said, if you're taking your net worth or taking your savings, do a third into your business, a third into gold, and a third into real estate. If you change that gold with Bitcoin, like I said, I think you'll do quite well with yourself. But yeah, I don't know. That just, it was funny reading that. I'm like, yeah, if you change gold to digital gold, I think you'll do pretty good.
Yeah, you know, I always loved the, it's not biblical, but the richest man in Babylon. And every time I read that, I would just change, anytime they said gold to Bitcoin, I'm like, this is great advice. This is the best advice ever. All right, guys. Anyways, let's keep the show moving. I'm actually going to switch it up a little bit. So instead of playing you guys a clip in the numbers, I do want to cover what's going on in the silver markets because I find it very interesting. And I think there's a lot of parallels into Bitcoin. And then in the news, we got an update on strategy in the S&P 500. And then some interesting news coming from the nation state. And then I will end the show. I'm going to drop a little bullish hopium for you guys. So that's the layout for today's show. Jam-packed show. Of course, smash the like button, comment on the show. Let us know what you think about the show, and hit the subscribe button because we're dropping bangers, guys. I don't know if you've been watching Dante and Rustin's videos, but they are popping off right now. They're making some banger videos. And before I move on, I do got to talk about our boys over at Bitcoin Well. If you are looking at this 91, 92K price right now, and you are like me thinking it's going to go higher, you want to smash buy some Bitcoin, make sure you go to bitcoinwell.com/simplybtc. The reason we love them so much is because they never hold on to your Bitcoin. They have never lost Bitcoin, and they will never lose Bitcoin because once your dollars go through, it goes straight into cold storage. They're the only company that does that. And we're trying to make sure that you guys never get rug pulled by leaving your Bitcoin on exchanges. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply. And hey, if you're watching this, you're finally understanding what's going on, and you want to smash buy $50,000 or more, get in touch with the Infinite Well team. They will give you the white glove service, and they will make sure that you are holding Bitcoin for the long term. All right, guys, on that note, we'll be right back after this commercial break.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
All righty then, guys. At the time of this announcement, the current Bitcoin price is $90,000 and $90,750. It did go up to like 92 something this morning. So there's some life back in the market, guys. There's some life back in the market. Maybe it's a dead cat bounce. That's what everyone's saying. I keep seeing James Wynn say dead cat bounce, but you know, anyone that shorts Bitcoin on a big enough scale, I fundamentally don't like them. So, you know, I don't agree with what he said here. We are bull charge. We only long Bitcoin. Anyways, that's a negative 28.1% decline from all-time high. The market cap inching up towards 2 trillion. We're currently at 1.81 trillion. And the current block height is 925,588. Okay, guys. So again, I usually play a video, but I want to sneak a new news story in here. And while we all had the itis yesterday after Thanksgiving dinner, very interesting stuff is going on in the silver market. So here's the first announcement. So just in, again, this was 10:40 p.m., 9:20. Oh, this happened actually 2 days ago, and we all just saw it kind of play out yesterday. And, I was so focused on eating turkey and mashed potatoes that I completely missed this. Anyways, the CME futures halted. Incredibly, just as silver and gold were about ready to launch, the CME futures and options markets were halted. Now, everyone is looking at this, and essentially, I think it's opening up a lot of people's eyes. And I was really thinking about the silver bets, guys. I don't know if you guys also saw Michael Burry, a.k.a. the infamous guy from The Big Short. He did a post yesterday or 2 days ago about GameStop and kind of, putting the spotlight back on GameStop. And at the same time, we're seeing that the CME has halted trading on silver and gold. Now, that story in and of itself would probably be a non-story. But what's interesting is the excuse that they gave. And this is where I think they're being exposed. And further, it's starting to really expose more people to the idea that the markets are rigged. Anyways, it didn't actually stop the price. So I'll cover what's going on this morning. It's going nuts. So CME futures trading stopped on Friday after data center glitch. Live trading in commodities, future options in the Chicago Mercantile Exchange halted on Friday due to technical issues, according to a Singapore-based spokesperson for CME Group. Quote, due to a cooling issue at Cyrus One data centers, our markets are currently halted, the spokesperson said in an emailed statement. Support is working to resolve the issue in the near term and will advise clients of pre-open details as soon as they are available. Now, as more people dug into this, it seemed like only the Sirius One data centers that are connected to the CME were halted for some cooling issue, which is making everyone essentially say like there's some shenanigans going on. Everyone is essentially making the case that, look, the CME basically said we got to halt trading on silver and gold because silver is about to absolutely rip. And we got to just stop the trading. I think it was down for about 10 hours. It finally turned on this morning. And I think that's where the story gets even more interesting, is because right as CME kind of started again, it finally ripped past here. Actually, let me go to this chart here, which is absolutely nuts. It finally ripped past the 1981, right? Is it 81? 1980 all-time high of 47 something dollars. Currently, we're at $56.43 per ounce of silver, absolutely ripping past these all-time highs. Now, I know a lot of people are probably sitting here like, okay, this is a Bitcoin show. Like, who cares? Why do I have to pay attention with what's going on with silver? Well, when silver rips, especially in the same year that gold rips past all-time high, this is telling you a lot about what investor sentiment is. This is telling you a lot about what people believe in the fundamental plumbing of the traditional financial system. When you see stuff like this happen, first gold rips, then silver rip, it should usually kind of get you thinking, okay, Bitcoin is about to rip soon. This is also one of the reasons why I don't think we are in a bear market. I was kind of trying to find a way to frame this. I wanted to say like a hard money bull run. 2025 is a hard money bull run, but silver's really been demonetized, and like a precious metal bull run doesn't sound as good because then Bitcoin's not in it. But that's essentially the signal that I'm getting here. And it's very interesting because like the bottom line is when silver breaks all-time high, it's not really about silver. It's about what the investor and the system is saying in the background. It's basically people are losing faith in fiat and faster than they can print it. And of course, from a Bitcoiner's perspective, you're like, okay, all of this is aligning very, very good. Like things are working in our favor, even though the charts are looking very bad. I did do like a small ChatGPT kind of take of it. And you can think of it like this. Gold lights the match, silver throws gasoline, and Bitcoin becomes the wildfire. So I'm like, man, Everything is lining up good. We had a gold all-time high in 2025. We had the silver all-time high. That's literally what, I don't know, 50-year bear market couldn't break through that. Now, there's people saying this run's not going to really last for too long, but the point remains the same, that what you're seeing is the market, the traditional financial system kind of fighting back in the only way they know how to, which is this. This is why we always tell you need to take your Bitcoin off the exchange. So while I'm reading this, even though this is about the CME and what's happening in the traditional markets, you should be thinking of Bitcoin in the exchanges. So you have been warned. When the banksters can no longer control the paper market, they will, 1, shut down the exchanges, 2, settle paper contracts with fiat, and 3, everything force majeure. Now we see they are acting according to the playbook. This worked in the past because they're the only price discovery mechanism in town. And I would add, this last part's where he's missing. Now the world has, other means for price discovery. Now we have Bitcoin, which is the true free market of money, which cannot be controlled. It cannot be halted. Yes, exchanges can go down, but you cannot stop Bitcoin on a transaction base layer. Now, here's where, again, this excuse starts to get exposed. And he goes, I just spoke to a commodity trader and he said the glitch excuse is BS. Silver futures book was very thin. Then a trade cleared the offer side with no quotes left. According to him, CME is giving time to market makers to reposition and avoid a price print off the chart. And I don't know if you guys saw Larry Leparty's like $100, $200 per silver ounce right now. So these are the signals that, macro guys, fiat doomers have been looking at for a long time. And they're like, this is going to happen at some point. Now we got it. And I know you guys love memes, so I got to throw one meme in here for you guys. And he goes, Black Friday started off as the gold panic of 1869, and now it's turning into the gold and silver panic of 2025. Dude, the memes just write themselves. It is Black Friday. Silver's running. People are panicking. Bitcoin price is going up. I'm like, man, it's almost like everything is working in our favor. And I think the charts are lying to us right now. And everyone's feeling bearish. And I just keep thinking, I'm like, it's not over. Again, I'm in denial. Like, denial is not just a river in Egypt. It's Opti right now. I'm like, Bitcoin is going to rip. We're going to rip. So everything's telling me we're going to rip. First gold this year outperformed everything. Bitcoin basically went sideways all year. Now we're seeing silver outperform everything, or not outperform everything, but hit all-time highs. I'm like, it's only a matter of time until Bitcoin starts ripping, guys. And then on the other thing, I saw China. Currently, there is a price disparage right now between the prices in the U.S. and the prices in China. And apparently, China is trying to settle a lot of physical silver currently. And so my takeaway from this is, essentially someone wanted to claim a lot of physical silver, probably margin called someone. It seems like someone's going to be blowing up right now. CME had to stop trading on this because it was going to get out of their way. They closed it for about 10 hours on Thanksgiving. And right when they kind of re-put the markets back up, it just rips even higher. And it's like, it seems like all of the tools that TradFi has been able to use for years, decades, they're getting called on that. The margin calls are happening not just in the trades, but on these institutions. And I'm like, it's just it's a perfect storm, Chris. It's a perfect storm right now. So I don't know. I'm starting to see stuff and feeling very bullish. And really, none of it has to do with the Bitcoin price currently. It's everything around it. Anyways, I've been ranting a while. Chris, what's your thought? Actually, you did tell me a very interesting point about the 1980 all-time high, which has a very, nice parallel to where we are today.
Yeah, I mean, I've been biting my tongue. I've been wanting to talk so badly, but I want to let you rant. So obviously, Opti was talking about the Hunt brothers in the 1980s. The price spiked from a year prior from $6 per troy ounce up to $49.45 per troy ounce. Obviously, they kind of cradled the market then because they said they were performing market manipulation, whatever that means. They were just kind of, finding the true price of silver because they were buying it and taking delivery of it. So they were pulling a lot of physical gold off. When you use paper contracts for a lot of like the CME or different things like that, like you don't always have to take physical settlement of it. So they can play paper games. I mean, JP Morgan literally was fined like in 2019, like I think the largest fine ever in financial crime or manipulating of precious metals markets. It was like $970 million, just shy of $1 billion for these traders in the precious metal markets, basically making trades like bogus trades of saying like, yeah, like I'm making a trade, I'm making a bid contract of this amount for this many tons of gold, and then they were canceling it and then not accepting delivery, but saying they were. So they were basically manipulating the markets down because, you know, like Opti says, like, oh, these glitches, you know, heads I win, tails you lose. That's kind of the way it always seems. And this is kind of the whole point. This is going to wrap it on a nice little bow right here on Black Friday here in 2025, year of our Lord, is that you play in their markets, you play by their rules. And you play by their rules means that they can change the rules if and when they ever want to benefit them. If you want to buy a stock, all of a sudden stocks is halted. We saw this in 2001 with the GameStop trade. Oh, you want to play in the silver and gold markets? Well, if you're not taking physical settlement of those and you're doing paper contracts, which, you know, are legitimate for the most part, if you're doing futures contracts or shorts and all these different things. Oh, you know, our big banker friend is caught off sides and it's going to fuck you over. Well, we're going to go with our big banker buddy. This actually happened, and I won't dox my friend, but he was dealing money markets for a family office. And, you know, they were a family office, you know, somewhere in the range of 50 to 100 million was their office for a bunch of families. And basically they were, long story short, they were on the other side of a trade of JP Morgan. And JP Morgan, normally when things go in their favor, it's like, what's a few billion between friends? But then when they were on the losing side of the trade, it's like, yo, they were trying to get the federal government to backstop them for a few billion. So it's like, oh, when Jamie Dimon's like, hey, we owe you a few billion. What's a few billion among friends? But if you owe Jamie Dimon $1 billion, you bet your ass he's going to find a way to get blood from a stone. So basically there was this, not to get into the details of it, basically they were short and my buddy was long, and they basically closed out and said that these were net neutral trades. Well, yeah, that works great if you're short. That works horrible if you're long and the short closes and basically drops the price. Yeah. So my point is, you know, they can manipulate the bond markets. They can manipulate the stock market. They can manipulate the precious metals markets through these options of shorts and longs. But if you're taking physical, you know, you buy Bitcoin and you take self-custody yourself, there's no way for them to manipulate it. Yeah, they can manipulate the price here and there, but at the end of the day, if more people are taking self-custody than are letting play in these paper games, whether it is in any of the, the Bitcoin treasury companies, whether it's in any of the ETFs, when it's with any of these long and short contracts, whether you're doing any of these funky things on Polymarket or Kashi, like if you have your physical Bitcoin, and you can self-custody it yourself and you can send it out with using your own node, this makes you the most self-sovereign. This makes you the most resilient to people manipulating the markets. This makes you the most resilient. You know, like Opti and I, not that we have any Bitcoin, but if we did, the going rate of it right now is $13 million per Bitcoin. And I know people are like, wait, but I could buy it right now for 90K. It's like, yeah, well, if you want my Bitcoin, it's $13 million. And even then I'll consider selling you some of the little bit of Bitcoin that I do have. But I don't know. That's just end rant there. I think like this just shows the importance of don't play that rigged game. Play your own game. And by playing your own game, not only is it like, hey, like, you know, I hate to bash on the gold bugs, but it's like, they're like, well, they're manipulating markets. Well, it turns out the gold bugs were right. But the reason they lost is because they let the paper games beat them. And I know a lot of the boomers or the traditional generation say like, oh, well, like you want the big boys to come into the arena, such as the large financial institutions. You want the large hedge funds. You want all them. Like, obviously, that's going to be more beneficial to your bags in the long run. But at the end of the day, if you are not playing the paper games, that's where the true wealth begins. That's where, I thought I was worth $1 million on paper. And then all of a sudden I said something against a marginalized class or against the group that's in power, and all of a sudden that money that I thought I had is gone. Where if you have it in self-custody and you're running your own node, there is no way that they can stop you from using your own Bitcoin, barring they kill you to do it. And I hate saying, but allegedly, but we're not advocating for violence here. But I just think that having your own Bitcoin in self-custody, that is the revolutionary idea. That is the thing that shows true wealth. That is what's going to help you and your family and your legacy live on forever, is by buying Bitcoin and taking it in self-custody. End rant there.
Well, I don't really believe in living on forever, but I agree with the general sentiment. But yeah, I think that's kind of that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because if you're not really thinking of connecting the dots here, you're like, okay, cool. Like you know, silver's hitting all-time high. Like I haven't talked to my dad, but I know he does have some silver bags. So I'm sure if he saw the price, he's gonna be like, I'm the best trader ever. But when I saw this story, I'm like, dude, this reminds me of GameStop. This reminds me of that whole saga. This reminds me of any time the 2008 financial crisis, like any time, like you said, when the banks are caught off sides, they're never going to take that loss. And the only way now to really protect yourself, obviously we are biased, but it's to put as much of your wealth as you can in Bitcoin. And once it's in cold storage, they can never turn off your Bitcoin. Like, yes, if you leave it on exchange, there's all kinds of shenanigans that can happen. There's all kinds of things that they can do. They can essentially do the same thing. But once it's in cold storage, they can't stop this. And so I think another point here is what we've seen happen in gold and silver this year, I think is really throwing a wrench into the idea of diminishing returns. It's just where we are right now. People are more comfortable with silver and gold than they are with Bitcoin. But there will be a point where, as Rustin always likes to say, the mother of all supply shocks will happen. And Bitcoin is going to rip past everyone's models. It's really going to expose the system for what it is. But we're starting to see signs of this play out, you know, in different kind of areas in the traditional financial markets. The latest one is obviously the silver markets. The one we've been covering all week, the JP Morgan strategy kind of attack. Like, if it's not becoming obvious to you that there's something going on in the system and the house always wins, you know, what's that saying? I got a short bridge over a long river to sell you, or whatever it is. It's just nuts that people can look at this stuff and not see what we see. But again, we've been in this for a while. We kind of have morphed our worldview around what Bitcoin does versus the rest of the system. But yeah, I saw the silver stuff and I'm like, man, it's so obvious. Yeah, jump in, Chris, and then we'll keep it moving.
Yeah, one last thing. So in 1964, the minimum wage was 5 silver quarters. And for keeping numbers easy, about a silver quarter was about 0.2 of a troy ounce. So 5 silver quarters is a full ounce. So obviously with silver hitting an all-time high. So 1964, the minimum wage was 5 silver quarters. That had a melt value of about $15. And I know the left, or more, you know, people on the left or liberals are always talking about we need to raise the federal minimum wage is only $7.25, which is, you know, pretty criminal if you think about it with trying to live in this day and age. But if we had a hard money standard, you just say 5 silver quarters and rounding up is about 1 troy ounce. That means that right now with gold prices being at what, $55, $56?
56, yeah.
56. So that means that you'd be getting $56 per hour as your minimum wage if we used a hard money, or, you know, this ties in the whole Bitcoiners, silver, you know, the hard money advocates of the world, that like basically we don't have a crisis of hard money. We have a crisis of printed fiat money. And that has caused so many of the problems, you know, fix the money, fix the world. And that part of that's true. Imagine, you know, $56 per hour as, you know, minimum wage. And then you assume that jobs that are more even senior than that are getting paid much more than that. So that would fix a lot of things. And obviously that is not beneficial to the ruling class or to the elites. You know, that is basically saying that people have more purchasing power. They can buy more things. They're not under the gun or under the thumb of, you know, the systems that are built today that enrich the elites and they keep the poor and the middle class hollowed out. So I definitely think, you know, buying Bitcoin and, you know, taking in self-custody is more of the revolutionary act. And it just shows the hard money standard shows that you can live a better life on that standard.
Yeah, I just did some quick math, and you guys know I suck at math, but $56 per hour times 40 hours a week times 52 equals $116,480 a year. Imagine that being minimum wage.
That's
minimum wage.
Yeah, like
that's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. All right, guys, let's keep it moving. We do have some Bitcoin news for you guys, and then we're gonna end the week with some real hopium and some bullish stuff here. So we'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledn.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
All right, guys. So very quickly, we'll start with this one. So apparently, Thailand to introduce the 0% tax on Bitcoin gains traded on local exchanges. Not perfect, but Thailand introduced zero capital gains tax on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies traded on national exchanges licensed by the Thai SEC. This move aims, of course, to attract foreign investment and help Thailand become a central hub for digital assets. Here's some key details. Thailand's new rule removes personal income tax on capital gains from Bitcoin and other digital tokens, but only when trading happens on licensed exchange brokers or dealers approved by the Thai SEC. This means profits made on unlicensed platforms or overseas platforms does not get this benefit and may still be taxed, which is going to be kind of interesting how they're able to follow all that. But anyways, in addition to it, crypto-related income such as mining rewards, staking remains taxable under standard rules. So as you can see, it's not perfect, but I would argue this is moving in the right direction. I would like to see more countries do something similar. And at the same time, a former Thai official is basically saying that we are going to do a strategic Bitcoin reserve, or urging their government to do a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So things are heating up on the nation state level. As I was joking with, I'm going to clean up the joke, Chris. So, I'll clean up the joke. Chris heard the uncensored version of it, but I guess maybe Bitcoiners are getting girlfriends this year. They just might be in for a little surprise when they get the girlfriend. So hey, a lot of countries are starting to, I think, very clearly make moves into positioning themselves to attract Bitcoiners. Now, are they perfect? No, but I think, as we've been saying for a while, it does start to open the Overton window here, where I think, maybe what I hope would happen is in the US, we see the best rules we can surrounding this. Obviously, just purely eliminated capital gains, treat Bitcoin as money. Money shouldn't be taxed, unless you're counting inflation as a tax. But hey, Thailand removes capital gains if they're traded on Thai approved exchanges. So I guess maybe it's a step in the right direction, but you can see the nation state game theory is kind of playing out in real time, which you kind of love to see. I'm not really going to be too mad about this. So Chris, you want to jump in on this? Or I do have an update on the strategy S&P 500 stuff if you don't have anything to add to this.
I mean, I think this just goes to show that, the nation states, and I know our boy Nolan has talked about this for many, many years, that basically the governments are in the business of trying to retain or
Yep.
attract their citizens or future citizens to their countries. And I think, obviously Nolan's talked about this. Obviously, Max Kaiser's talked about this. Governments like Bitcoin has helped uh, even the playing field for countries of trying to just, instead of going to the best or most prosperous area, like countries would be like, hey, we'll be favorable in terms of Bitcoin and taxes and things like that, and businesses. And they're trying to compete to get global mind share and basically sats into their jurisdiction. And by saying, hey, Thailand saying, hey, we're going to go zero Bitcoin capital gains tax, they are trying to incentivize entrepreneurs and people with vast amounts of wealth to move to those places in order to try and build up their communities and make it better and more fair. And I think that it also puts pressure on the legacy governments, or the hegemonies of the world, the Chinas, the US, the Russias of the world, to try and have a better deal or a better bargain to keep people and to entice people to keep coming to those nations. So I do think, we've talked about hash wars. We've talked about, the soft war of it all with hash rate. We've talked about it with mind-share, with Bitcoiners, and kind of the digital nomad. And I think that trend is only going to keep continuing, of the countries that are of lesser economic status are going to try and incentivize entrepreneurs and Bitcoiners to come to their jurisdictions. And I think we're only going to see that trend accelerate over the coming years.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think it's happening in real time, but it happens so slowly that you forget all of this really started, a year ago. Yes, there's been kind of like movement in the right direction, but in the last year, specifically the one in mind I have is the Czech Republic. Czech Republic completely limited capital gains, and it all kind of came out. I know Czech Republic is a really good Bitcoin country, but it really all started when Trump came out pro Bitcoin. And then the most recent story to me that really kind of sheds light on this idea that it's not just a theory, it's actually playing out, is what's happening in China. Again, we just covered this week, where China is now back to being the third most, I forget what the framing is, like
Third highest hash rate, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they have the most miners now, third most miners back in China, even though they banned Bitcoin a couple of years ago. And it's like,
I never bought that narrative personally. I know they were at like
agree.
40 they were at like 40-45%, but even when you're looking at the numbers, it dropped to like 20-25%, which is true. Obviously they had their mining ban, but I think it was twofold. I think there was people that did it in secret, definitely, and then I think there was people that either that didn't do it in secret and tried to pay off government official, allegedly, or three, the government was like, hey, we're confiscating these mines, and yeah, they may not be doing anything, they may not turn them on afterwards, but I do think we're seeing the swing of like, hey, we want the hash rate here in China. I think, not to say to steal one from WikiLeaks, but like, and Satoshi, but like kicking the hornet's nest. I think when Trump was like, we want every hash rate, we want every Bitcoin mined in the United States, I think that put China and Russia and a lot of countries on notice. Like, I think if you, in the less Trumpian way of him being like, yeah, like we're pro Bitcoin and crypto, like what he said like that, and was less bombastic about it, I think less people would have taken notice of it personally. So, yeah. But I mean, maybe to our own detriment, he kind of said that. Obviously, it's not a good thing to have hash rate only located in one jurisdiction. That puts a lot of risk on the network. So maybe it's kind of good that he said it in the way that he did. But it is very interesting that I think a lot of countries are like, oh shit, like we need to have a plan on this, and we need to have a plan on this yesterday.
Yeah, without a doubt, 100%. All right, I'm going to quickly go through update this because we have seen a lot of strategy stuff in the news. Well, strategy once again failed to join the S&P 500, and they actually added SanDisk Corp will join the S&P 500 today instead of Sailor. I doubt Sailor really cares at this point, but it's just interesting to see that the full-blown attack from Wall Street is currently happening on strategy. I don't really think it has anything to do with whether they're, solvent, whether their business is going well. I think we all know it has something to do with the fact that they've gone all in on Bitcoin. So quick little update on that one. But Chris, you want to chime in on this? I know we've been talking about the S&P 500, the JP Morgan saga all week. So I don't know if you want to chime in a little, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, it's very interesting. So strategy based on basically just their stock price, Their market cap is 8.25 billion. That doesn't seem right, but obviously when you account for their Bitcoin on their books, let me do the quick numbers here. Let's just call it 640,000 times 90K. I mean, that's 57 billion right there of just Bitcoin on their books, excluding just their, stock price. So their stock price plus their Bitcoin holdings, or if you just want to do with their Bitcoin holdings, is at 57 billion, where SanDisk Corp is only at 32 billion. So, by the comparison, it's like, okay, like MicroStrategy is almost double what SanDisk Corporation is for market cap. I know there's other requirements. They have to have 6 quarters of positive positive revenue growth, or I forget what the wording of it is. Like, there's all these different things. But at what point, like, how long is this charade going to go on where it almost seems too apparent? Like, we're already there, but at how long do they let this charade go on of like not including them?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the greater the theme of what we're seeing, especially on today's episode. It's like, it's becoming very obvious that as much as they have to now kind of be a little more lenient around Bitcoin because the narratives have changed and people are a little more acceptance of it, they're doing whatever they can to fight Bitcoin in any capacity that they still have. And I think this is just one of those examples as well. It's like, I mean, strategy's doing well if you look at everything from like a Bitcoiner's perspective. If you're looking at it from like a TradFi perspective, you're like, yeah, we're not going to add this thing. Like, we don't trust this Bitcoin thing. We don't trust this Sailor guy. This is not what's going to be added. And they have the right to do that. But when you look at kind of their numbers, you're like, I mean, it seems like they're doing better than anyone else.
Like 60 to 70% of the companies are like zombie companies. Basically, they have debt that's growing faster than they can pay it off. It's like, oh, well, it's okay if we include those companies, but, God forbid someone's, doing something else. And this is not to be pro MicroStrategy or the other way, but it's just like, when the S&P 500s, the returns have really done because of the Magnificent Seven. What is it? The Google, Meta, Facebook, Apple. I included Meta and Facebook twice, but Google, Netflix, Amazon, all these top 7 corporations that NVIDIA and Microsoft. Like, so when all those corporations are basically driving the majority of the returns of the S&P 500, and then it's like, oh, we got to keep these other, 500, 400 laggard companies, so to speak. We're protecting investors here. I don't know if they have a leg to stand on, but I don't know. I digress.
Yeah, I mean, it's the S&P 7 plus 493 zombie companies. But hey, Sailor, we don't want to add that toxic thing to here because it might make us look bad. Anyways, let's keep it rolling. Let's hit the culture. I'm going to end with some hopium from Mark Moss. I really like this tweet, so we're going to chat about it.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitcoinBend.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Bend's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth. and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
Alrighty then, guys. I saw this one day late, and I was over at Nico's for Thanksgiving, so I didn't actually have to have these Thanksgiving conversations with my friends and family. But I found it pretty interesting. Mark Moss with that Hopium tweet yesterday, or rather 2 days ago, he goes, have fun with all your Bitcoin Thanksgiving conversations. Every year except 2024, Bitcoin has been way off the annual high, and 2025 is no exception. The average drawdown is 37.16% from year high. The median drawdown was 32.92% from year high. Fun fact, Bitcoin's epic bull run in 2017 still saw Bitcoin price down negative 58.96% at $8,118 on Thanksgiving, and was only just weeks away from its December peak of $19,783. I don't know if he's necessarily saying we're recreating the 2017 bull run, but I do like the general sentiment. It's like, I know we've been saying for a while, and this is my working kind of case right now, is like, we are kind of entering a new era in Bitcoin, I believe, since the institutions came into Bitcoin, and things are just like seemingly fundamentally different. And I'm kind of leaning on the side of the 4-year cycle being over, but it is interesting how Bitcoin kind of just does its thing, and it does kind of rhyme constantly. And none of the stuff outside of Bitcoin really affect anything. But if Mark Moss is saying we still have a 2017 type run left in us, Q4, I'm kind of all for it.
Sign me up.
Yeah, sign me up. Exactly. So I don't know if we could go through a little bit. So we'll go 2015, November 26th. Price on Thanksgiving, 328. The calendar year high, 464. Dollars down from year high, 136. Percentage down from year high, 29,000 or 29%. Let's go 2017. We just did that one. $8,118 on Thanksgiving. Calendar year high, 19,783. You know what Mark Moss needed on this? He needed to tell us the dates for the year high. Because that would really perspective. Exactly. Like, did it pump before Thanksgiving and then it dumped, or was it Thanksgiving was low and then it pumped?
See, like 2018, I don't know. Maybe
2018, I think that one's flipped. That one was definitely like calendar year high.
Because I remember in December, it like ripped, and then basically like the new year, or like right around December or Christmas, that's when it crashed, I believe, 2018. Like that was the blow off top, but I could be wrong there.
Let's see. Every year except 24, Bitcoin has been way off the annual high. And 2020, I think he's saying essentially,
yeah, December 4th, 2017, it was hitting its all-time high for that year, right around there. So 17, sorry, it was the year that it was like on the trajectory towards.
Okay, well, what do I know? I just keep being reminded of that one meme of that kid playing football, and he's like, I'm not gonna lie, they had me in the first half.
Yeah, yep.
But we pulled it out in the second half. Now, look, that meme is running on its last breath at this point, because we're about 2 days away from December. And then that's 4 weeks. I don't know, man. Can we pull a Hail Mary out of the bag here? Can Bitcoin still do something by the end of the year?
An inverse part. Inverse part.
Yeah, inverse part to the upside, finally. I don't know, man. I'm still feeling kind of bullish here. I will be in denial until we're going all the way down. Until we're breaking down past 70, I'm still in denial. So that's my stance. Guilty as charged. I still think we have some life.
You could say that we've been in a bull run since January 3rd, 2009. You know what I mean?
Well, we totally have. I mean, that is without a doubt still holding true. If there's one meme that holds true, we've been in a bull run since 2009.
On a legendary run.
Generational run here. Is it 17? Wow, we're going to 17. That's crazy. Anyways, I thought I'd leave you with a little bit of that, guys. So, Chris, thank you so much. It's always fun when you come on the show. Everyone out there, I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. If you're not in America, I hope you had a good Thursday. I don't know if you guys are doing Black Friday shopping, but we do have our merch on sale. I know you can get a BitKey on sale currently. So if you are Black Friday shopping, you should be getting some Bitcoin stuff. This is the best time of the year to get it. And yeah, man. We'll see you on Monday.
Yep.
Peace out, guys. Have a good one. Eat some good food. Get outside. Get some exercise. All that good stuff. We'll be back on Monday. Peace.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.